Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is Ukraine War breaking news update concerning a big strike in Kharkiv that has just taken place, and there is a lot of footage concerning this strike around on the socials at the moment. At least 2 dead, 24 injured, 15 missing, possibly an awful lot more. I think these sort of numbers will increase. Russia decided to bomb the epicenter shopping mall in Kharkiv, Ukraine, with over 200 people inside of the building at the time of the attack. This is another terrorist attack, says Ukraine battle map, by Russia, yet Ukraine cannot defend themselves by targeting the enemy from where they attack in Russia. Now, I'm not 100% sure of exactly what hit this. There are claims of it being aviation bombs that have done so. You can see this as a really sizable fire. This is a hypermarket, possibly to do with construction, but this is not a military target. Clearly not a military target. And so when places like this are struck, you are left thinking, like, if you did that on purpose, this is outright terrorism. And why is it that I'm not seeing this on the mainstream media? Why is this not being reported? And I hope to goodness it is eventually reported. No reports here, says Blinken and Sullivan. We'll do everything to make sure Ukraine has the weapons to defend its sovereign territory. Meanwhile, in Ukraine, Russians continue their terror on civilians from just across the border unpunished. Lift those restrictions now. And I'm going to go on and do my military aid video in a wee while, and that will be I won't give too much time to that idea, but we've been talking about that last few days. This is absolutely crucial. You know, the imagery coming out of here is incredibly evocative. It's very powerful, and it's terrible that the Russians are able to do this and get away with it. Over 200 people were in the supermarket when Russia hit it, says Anton Gerashchenko. At least 15 employees are missing. Russia hit it deliberately during the weekend when a lot of people were there. Extinguishing the fire is complicated because there is a significant amount of flammable materials and the risk of repeated strikes. Police are studying surveillance cameras to find out how many people were inside. And yeah, if we had more modern air defense systems and missiles for them, this would not have happened. I don't know. Well, it depends where you can fire those systems, of course. If our partners are not tied our hands with their stupid escalations and given permission to strike on the territory of the Russian Federation, we would have burned all enemy airfields near our border along with their equipment and service personnel. And this would not happen either. If the USA had not played the game, quote, "we are afraid of nuclear war," then we would not have become signatories of the Budapest Memorandum and could defend ourselves and would not be suffering from Russian terror now. How many more ifs and deaths are needed for the Allies to understand that such wars cannot be won by defence alone? This is a really, really good point. And I wonder whether strikes like this will end up being counterproductive for the Russians, because I hope that the American administration are looking at this imagery that's coming through and say, right, this is a clear example of a Russian attack on a Ukrainian civilian piece of infrastructure that, had we allowed the Ukrainians to hit certain targets, would not have happened. So as we go on, like, cycling through this imagery, Russian terrorist attack on an epicenter shopping mall in Kharkiv. Quote, "we just got lucky now. There are so many people in there," a resident says after having escaped. Now, it comes down to this. Special Kherson Cat says Russian military airfield here. So this is the one at an airfield Baltimore near Voronezh, airfield from which a Russian military aircraft took off to attack the hardware store in Kharkiv. 180 kilometers from the front line. This is 50 kilometers closer than Belbek military airfield in Sevastopol, which was targeted by ATACMS missiles recently. Belbek has been hit a number of times over the course of the war. And as mentioned recently with ATACMS, we're able to prevent this to save lives. But unfortunately for all Ukrainian, for Kharkiv residents who will soon bury their family members, Baltimore and other military targets on Russian territory are under the personal protection of Jake Sullivan and his colleagues. So people are now starting to get really angry with the US administration. Doesn't matter who you blame in the decision for the Ukrainians not to be able to do this. There is a growing resentment, which is going to be counterproductive against the Americans here, and they are going to have to solve this pretty soon, right? It's interesting that even Jens Stoltenberg from NATO is appearing to side with lifting restrictions. And the Russians, of course, have already started to justify this terror by making up these kinds of nonsense stories. Quote, "in Kharkiv, our KAB carb bomb ended up in the construction shopping centre. This is a result of an attempt by the Ukrainian Nazi Nazis to suppress Kharkiv with electronic warfare supplied by NATO, which was recently transferred to Ukraine as part of the Allied assistance net last week. So they're saying it went, of course, because of electronic warfare. Even if that was true, this is just completely unacceptable that they are bombing Kharkiv anyway without the Ukrainians being able to do anything about that before that bomb is released, before these missiles are sent into the air. So this is another terrible example of Russian terrorism, and it's another excruciatingly frustrating example of how Ukraine are being forced to fight with their hands tied behind their back. And we as allies need to be doing something about this. There are many who are. The UK has said no problems with using our weaponry inside Russia. You've got other nations saying that. I think you're going to get a growing chorus of voices adding towards the demands that the restrictions are changed, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the US will make a decision that aligns with morality and politics and just good old common sense in the very near future. Anyway, terrible scenes coming out there. Just thought I'd let you know. Toodle pips, speak soon.